A new drum sample library by 3 metal drummers. Is it any good? How does it compare to its competitors like Get Good Drums and Superior Drummer? We'll find out in this video. Hey guys, James here from jameszproductions. Enso is the debut drum library by RS Drums, which is a new drum sample company founded by Anup Sastry, Alex Rudinger, and Christopher Smith. If you are into metal music, some of these names might ring a bell. In this video, I'm going to review this library by showing you a full metalcore mix I did with exclusively the Enso library, comparing the library to the Modern and Massive library by Get Good Drums and the Progressive Foundry SDX by Toontrack, listing the pros and cons, and lastly, sharing my thoughts on the library. I'm leaving my thoughts to the end because I want you to come to your own conclusions first based on what you hear. Before I present you the metalcore mix, I want to mention that in an upcoming video, I will be looking at how dynamic the Enso library is, whether the transition among velocity layers are smooth, how it handles fats hits, snare whirls, tom rolls, and cymbal swells. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And now, let's take a listen to the Enso library in action. How did you think the Enso library sounds in the mix? Let me know in the comments below. Next, I'm going to compare the Enso library to GGD Modern Massive and the Progressive Foundry SDX by Toontrack. There is no extra processing on anything, so everything you hear in this comparison is straight out of the box sound from each library. I have also adjusted the MIDI velocities for each sample library to compensate for any differences in velocity mapping. Alright, let's take a listen. So now that you have heard the Enso library both mixed and unprocessed, what do you think of the sounds? Do you like them or not? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section. Let's start with the cons of the Enso library first, so we can end on a more positive note. The first thing that struck me when I used it was the interface. It's really not very user-friendly. The entire interface is just so small, and it's not the best experience to interact with it. It also doesn't have an interface of a full drum set where I can easily audition and change different elements of the kit, like most drum libraries from the last 5 to 6 years do. It takes 7 clicks to go from the snare page to the hi-hat page. There's just no way to easily go among the different instruments if you want to tweak your drum set. And for a 2020/2021 drum library, the interface design feels like it's from 10 years ago. Routing is also a nightmare. In both Superior Drummer and Gecko Drums libraries, there is a shortcut that allows you to quickly route all the mic channels to different outputs. But in Enso, you'll have to do it manually channel by channel because there's no such shortcut. And what makes it worse is that you can't even see which output a channel is being routed to unless you click on the route button. You also can't audition different articulations of an instrument. For example, in Superior Drummer, you can listen to the different articulations of a drum by clicking on them in the MIDI mapping page. GGD also has something similar. Now, I'm not sure why RS Drums didn't include that. Now, let's talk about the samples. There is no full mic bleed mode, which is automatically a con for me because if you want maximum realism, full mic bleed is crucial. I also find that the samples don't really sound like a full kit. I'm not sure how you thought the Enso library sounded when it's soloed and right out of the box earlier in the video, but I feel that compared to the other two libraries, the Enso library sounded quite lifeless and it doesn't have that drum kit in the live room kind of three-dimensional feel or depth. This doesn't necessarily mean it won't sound good in a mix though, and I'll talk about that later. Another thing I don't like about the Enso library is the cymbals. Their sound is pretty good, but they don't sound realistic, especially in the parts with continuous cymbal hitting. Take a listen to this comparison. As you could tell, Superior Drummer did a much better job in emulating realistic cymbal hitting. Enso's hi-hats also don't sound realistic at all. Here's a comparison of Enso's hi-hat and GGD Modern Fusion Library's hi-hat doing some basic hi-hat patterns. To me, Modern Fusion's hi-hat sounds a lot more realistic than Enso's. Now, with the cons out of the way, let's get to the pros. I like that it has a lot of instrument options. Enso has 13 kicks, 22 snares, 14 rack toms, 13 floor toms, 3 hi-hats, 3 rides, 4 splashes, and effect cymbals, 6 crashes, 3 stacks, and 3 chinas. I know, isn't that amazing? You'll have plenty of opportunities to find the sound you like. I also love that there are 3 rack toms and 3 floor toms. As a drummer myself, I have always loved drum sets with a lot of toms. The tom samples actually sound quite amazing. And I love that you get both a top mic and a bottom mic for the floor toms. I like having more control when mixing. Another pro with Enso is that the stack cymbals sound pretty damn good, and you even get a tight articulation and an open articulation for the stack, which I don't see very often in other drum libraries. I also like that there are 3 pairs of room mics, close, mid, and far. This means that you get the flexibility to choose a tighter drum sound or a larger drum sound depending on which room mic you use. So that was my pros and cons list for Enso. And I know I pointed out more cons than pros, but that's just my honest verdict on the library. I believe the fundamental problem with Enso library, in my opinion, is that It doesn't seem to offer anything new, unique, or anything significant that hasn't already been done by other drum sample libraries in the market. I feel that while the samples sound pretty good in Enso, the library doesn't have anything that stands out. What I mean is that with Superior Drummer, we all know we're getting the most realistic sampling, the most extensive sampling with tons of velocity layers and dynamic range. We're getting an amazing sampler that is like a mini doll in itself, and we're getting the most well-recorded and engineered raw drum samples to craft our own drum tones. With Get Good Drums, we're getting Nolly's iconic roomy snare sound that the modern progressive community love. GGD's libraries are not the most dynamic or the most realistic, but that snare sound is so iconic that it makes up for the other flaws. With Steven Slate drums, we're getting the super processed, super mix-ready, radio-friendly, pop rock-friendly kind of drum tones. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that all these drum libraries that people came to love all have their own unique thing. With the Enso library though, I can't really think of anything unique that it offers. It's not the most realistic, it's not the most processed or mix ready, it's not the rawest, and it doesn't even really sound like Anup's drum sound in his YouTube videos and music. So I'm kind of confused what the selling point of this library is and what would a person buy it for, other than the fact that maybe they are a fan of Anup Sastry or Alex Rudinger, but that alone isn't going to be sustainable in the long run, I feel, especially if the samples themselves don't really impress. Okay, that's my review on the RS Drums Enso library. Give it a like if you find this video informative or entertaining. Subscribe if you want to see more awesome music production content from this channel. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.